I love that the show revolves around Wim getting what he's asked for so far. He idolizes the Jedi, and now he's getting to meet a Jedi. How that plays out, that's a more interesting mystery than like, what's Addin? It's just been erased from the Jedi archive. Like, doesn't matter. We don't need to explain that. I want to know how this kid is going to react when he finds out his hero is not at all who he believes him to be.
Welcome, everyone, to Krypton to Alderaan. I'm Joey, your Star Wars lover, and with me is Dr. Royish Good Looks, leading expert in Star Wars shows runtime.
Hello, Joey. Hello, podcast.
Hello. We're the podcast that talks about nerdy pop culture, but it's mostly Star Wars, and this episode we will be discussing the premiere of Skeleton Crew Episodes 1 and 2, This Could Be a Real Adventure, and Way, Way Out Past the Barrier. We'd love to hear what you thought of the episode, so get in the comments. Hey, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, or if you're new here. If you're new here, welcome. Join the party. That's the end of that. Let's punch it. That should be the sound effect now. The kids screaming into hyperspace.
Oh, so good.
All right. Before we get into anything else, Royce,
we're going to talk about the most important thing first. What the people came here for.
Yep.
So the runtime, I think, tells you a lot. We got an above average first episode, 2 minutes above the average, but classic sophomore slump. Second episode, huge dive. This was the shortest second episode of a Star Wars live action show ever.
Wow.
And the second shortest premiere of all live action shows, if you add the first two together, depending on how you define a premiere. Second to Mandalorian, but that was only a 1 episode premiere, and 1 and 2 added together are still pretty short. So this is a short show, and it's jumping up and down in the runtimes, which I personally, it drives me nuts. I think we got shortchanged in that second episode. The ending with Jod it's great. We should have saw them escape. That last act just wasn't put into the episode. It was a great cliffhanger, but I don't like the way they format these streaming shows, but we know that we have to expect this. So those are your stats so far. Above average first episode, way below average second, 17 minutes shorter in the second episode.
I didn't notice that the second episode was short, and I know that might be ridiculous to say, but I've definitely noticed on other shows, on other Star Wars shows, when the episode is short. So I don't know if it was just like I was hyped up on the premiere and I watched them back to back, so it felt like one long episode, so it didn't feel short. So I don't know if I watched it by itself, if it would feel short. I was super in it. Like I was in it the whole time, and I didn't want it to end because I was really like vibing with the show. If it continues this way, if it continues with like 25 to 30 minute episodes, it'll be a bummer. But again, well, you have the charts and graphs to show that maybe this is just the way that we're going to have to go. We're going to have to adjust our expectations.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe the second episodes are always kind of cut short. And so it's better to put that in as the premiere rather than a jarring week in between the big premiere and then a small episode. Like you said, back to back, it's cool. A 48-minute premiere I thought was fine. I love the way the first one ended. The second one, I'm just like, we couldn't have escaped. You know that's coming. Let's just do that. And then episode 3, we can be doing, I digress.
Yeah. I feel like we've had this exact conversation about a different episode of a different Star Wars show, but I do like the ending on the cliffhanger. Like the last thing we get to see is Jod moving the key, and Wim is like, oh, you're a Jedi. And Jod's like, shh. Can you keep a secret? And then it ends. Like, I like that setup for the end because I think we all know that he is not who he is now going to claim to be. There's a lot of perspectives in that scene that we're seeing, and we're seeing like some Force usage. And so there's a lot in that scene, and it ends on the cliffhanger. And I really like that. If they had like escaped and gotten to the ship and then they flew away, it would be the exact same ending as in the first episode, which I think we'd probably also be complaining about.
Thanks for putting that into perspective. I mean, it was still great. It's still great. It's just short, and that doesn't make any sense to me. This week's podcast episode can be X number of minutes, and next week will be X minus half. You know, like I already digressed. Now I'm digressing again. I'm glad we covered this. I will keep you posted on the runtime for the rest of the season. Let's actually talk about the show, though. So let's rewind. How did you feel about it just overall? What's your vibe check minus the runtime?
You know, I feel like I just end up saying the same thing every time, but also I'm just really enjoying all of these shows. So I really enjoyed this show. I think from the last trailer, I knew I was going to enjoy it, or I was hoping I was going to enjoy it. And I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought that I would. I still wasn't really sure if it was going to be like, you know, not kids show, but like a show geared for a younger audience. I wasn't sure if it was going to be that. I wasn't really sure what exactly the vibe was going to be. But I do, after the first 2 episodes, it feels like there is something for everyone. Everyone can sit down and watch this show and have a part of it for them, which I think is true of all Star Wars, but it's not just geared towards kids, which again, like maybe we have to stop considering that or putting those labels on things, because this stuff can just exist and you're going to be able to relate to it in your own way anyway. So I really enjoyed it. I really enjoy the kids. I think they're all great. I love Neil. I would die for Neil. The kid playing Neil is just amazing. Super my kind of character. I love the idea of like these adventures that these kids are going on and adults don't take them seriously. And then it like they go and do this really incredible thing and the adults are like, sure you did. Like Wim's like, I found this thing in the woods. It's an old Jedi temple. And his father's like, you got to study, man. Apparently you can pass or fail a career assessment test.
And they asked them what they wanted to do to begin with. It's weird.
I think there's some real fishy stuff going on there. But anyway, I digress. I really enjoy the droid, the ship. I think it's super fun. There's the mystery aspect to it all, which I also really dig. You know, At-Ada is this planet that no one at the pirate port believes that they're from. It's a myth, right? Where are you from? Oh, we're from At-Ada. Come on, kid, tell me, where are you really from? I'm here to help you, right? I love that whole thing. Like, oh, you're from an entire mystery planet. I think the show looked great. I think Neil looked great. Movements, like facial expressions, all of that, but even out in space when they get to the spaceport. How did you feel?
End of podcast. I agree with every one of Joey's statements. Thank you for listening today. Yeah, man. I smiled through the whole thing. It was just
smiled through the whole thing.
So fun, right? And I'm with you that like the characters are great. Like I relate to almost every single one. Like Wim, just like endless optimism, but like kind of overconfident. My own Jedi temple. Like I feel that way every day when I walk into my studio, you know, my own podcast studio. And they're great. Neil is the Hurley of the group. I can see why you connect with him.
Oh yeah, And
even the parents, and also like the lack of some of the parents, I think is a really interesting side note that maybe we can talk about as those characters get introduced more. Like Wim just has a father figure and Fern just has her mother, and they're both kind of overbearing. And then Neil's got a full family and he's the happiest of the bunch. And then KB, we don't know anything about her family. You can see yourself in a little bit of like all of these kids or the parents, the way that they treat the kids. It's great. And SM33, I mean, I need like a Star Wars Battle Royale game that's him and K2SO and Hu Yang. Like he fits in perfectly. Or who's IG-11? Yeah, he's a Star Wars Terminator. It was my note. You know, he's got a peg leg and a missing eye. Like it's maybe silly on the nose with some of the pirate stuff. This is a question I wanted to ask you of like, how do we feel about pirates and also pirates in Star Wars? Because that's very heavy-handed in this. But it is a lot of fun. And I guess just to round this out, like, I love that the show revolves around Wim getting what he's asked for so far. Like, I want to go on an adventure. He idolizes the Jedi, and now he's getting to meet a Jedi, potentially, right? And the story is like delivering everything that Wim wants, but obviously it's not going to go the way he thinks. And that's ripe. If we continue to explore that, I would say my only worry, other than the runtime, is that we have this mystery of At-Aten, which is so cool. We're doing the great work, and At-Aten is this eternal treasure, and no one's heard of it, like you said. These are really great teasers, but Star Wars doesn't always stick the landing with a great teaser, with a great mystery. You know, who are Rey's parents? You're a Palpatine, Rey. what happened on Brendock? Like, that's a can of worms of whether or not people enjoyed that mystery.
I did.
Some people are going to enjoy it, some not. So for me, at least, like, I love the kid adventures so far, and I don't want to overhype the mystery too much, but I really love that they've put that mystery in there. I almost kind of hope they're just lines of dialogue and it's not explored, because we're gonna want too much from it. You know, this is like Jacob's cabin or something from Lost. Like, explain this to me. Right. And it's never explained.
Both examples that you've pulled from have been J.J. Abrams stuff. I don't think it's like Star Wars. The problem or not problem or just the way he does things is that J.J. Abrams does not go into something with the idea that he will fulfill the promise or explain the thing. It was, he's the mystery box guy. It was the same with Lost. It was the same with The Rise of Skywalker. Sure. So,
well, I love a mystery, and I don't want to put all my hope and faith in, like, let's find out what Aden is. Let's find out why it has the barrier, why there's so much question there that would be fun to find out. And maybe we do, and it's great. Maybe we don't find out and it doesn't matter. Or maybe we find out and it's not satisfying. But, either way, I'm trying to just not overhype it. And I'm probably worried that other podcasters are going to, because it's about the kids, like the story of the characters, not the lore. Like, forget about the lore. Like, this is about Wim learning that maybe he doesn't really want an adventure. Maybe he just wants to be an analyst like his dad. Who knows? And, his best friend Neil constantly says, like, I just want to go home.
Yeah, I think I like a lot of what you just said. And I personally, I want to know the lore. I want to know about Aden. I want to know about the barrier. And I have some speculation about that. But I do think it is good to remind me and remind other people that the show can just be about the kids. We don't have to be thinking about the answers to questions in every episode and then at the end of the episode pick it apart.
3 lines of dialogue.
Right. Because we didn't get answers, or like, why is May flip-flop? That whole stuff does not need to enter the conversation, because it is about the characters. And if you put yourself in the characters for a minute, you can start to understand maybe the motivations, maybe even if you don't understand, even if you can't relate, you can still see the other perspective. And I think, speaking of that, I think that that's going to be a very heartwarming lesson as we see these kids grow in this adventure. We're going to get to see some behind the scenes of why Fern is the way she is, and she's obviously has a hard shell exterior, and Wim, getting to see him learn that he's being pretty selfish and he's not taking his friends into consideration. He just wants to go on this journey. He's happy that they're out there, but Neil just wants to go home and be with his family, and he's worried about his brothers and sisters. But Wim doesn't care, and Neil would do anything for Wim, and it doesn't necessarily work the other way. So seeing that lesson is going to be one of the best parts of the show. And then on top of that, I think we're also going to get this cool pirate mystery treasure planet storyline that I'm pretty stoked for. It's the same as the Gathering episode of The Clone Wars, which is one of my favorite episodes. But the kids go and find their kyber crystals, and one kid is like just kind of a jerk and selfish, and he learns the lesson and sticks up for his friend and all kinds of stuff. And I'm excited, again, like we talked about last episode, I'm excited to see things from the kids' perspective. I'm excited to follow these kids on their journey. I'm excited to see the Star Wars galaxy for the first time through the eyes of these kids.
Yeah, it's amazing how little these kids know about their own galaxy, their own universe. Like, they don't know how to fly ships. Like, Luke could fly a ship. They don't even know that their currency is like not at all the common currency of the rest of the, like, they're so sheltered. And also, like, Wim, I love that you're talking about how Wim is sort of selfish. When he says, I just want to help people, he just wants to be a hero. But I don't think he doesn't know yet, like, what that really means. So there's going to be a moment where he's going to have to eat his words. Like, Neil's going to have to tell him, like, you were my brother, Wim,
Right.
And Wim's going to have to do something to sacrifice for the greater good, or, turn around and sacrifice his dream to help somebody else. And I think it'll be really interesting because he's going to look up to Jod as like his hero, and he's going to find out he's a curmudgeon, or shady, he's a pirate.
And criminal.
Yeah, it's going to shatter his worldview. So that'll be like how that plays out. That's a more interesting mystery than like what's at Aden. Like, it's just been erased from the Jedi archive. Like, doesn't matter. We don't need to explain that. I want to know how this kid is going to react when he finds out his hero is not at all who he believes him to be.
Yeah, this is the character development stuff that I also think we saw a lot in The Acolyte that hopefully we will just be able to sit in and experience in this show. So yeah, I can't wait to see all that happen. And I do think that it feels to me like I'm able to give some of the piratey stuff. I mean, I love the piratey stuff. I think that was your original question. Your original question was like, how do I feel about the pirate stuff? I really like the piratey stuff. I think that I am able to give some of the maybe more video gamey NPC character dialogue that we got from Smee or SM33 a little bit more space because it is like this old school kids on an adventure show.
Oh, is that a thing that people don't like his dialogue?
I don't know, but when they land at the port and he's telling them like where they are and what to go do.
Take your blaster with you.
Yeah, it sounded to me like a video game character sending you on a mission.
Have you tried looking over here, Wim?
But I do love that character, and I do think that because it's piratey, it is a little quirky, it's inherently campy, and we can give it a little bit more space with stuff like that and not pick it apart to death, because it is very fun. It's just very fun. Like you said, I had this in my notes too. I smiled the entire time. It was just fun and funny, and the characters were great.
On the pirate theme, when they're trying to leave the spaceport and SM33 catches up to them, Fern's like, why did you bring us here to the Pirates Cove? Oh, because we are also pirates? And she's like, we're not pirates. You're not pirates? Like, it was kind of the campy dialogue again. And she's like, no, we're kids. And then he gets shot right before he completes the line of dialogue, but it sounds like he's going to say, why cannot, he gets shot, why cannot kids be pirates, is what I assume he was going to say. Right. Man, it's cool that he got shot in that line and we can have this conversation we're about to have right now. But that, I love the idea that this robot is like, yeah, you're my captain. Why aren't you pirates? You know, why aren't you Jedi? Why aren't you insert whatever you want to be in this show where they're trying to give you a test to place you into the society of what you're going to do for the great work. And here are these kids out doing whatever the hell they want, God knows where. And it's beautiful that like the pirate co-captain or whatever, I don't know what you call him on the ship.
First mate.
Yeah, the first mate. The droid first mate is like a better parental figure to the kids than their parents so far.
Yeah, just more open because he doesn't know better, right? He's like, well, why can't you be this thing? And I thought the entire time I was thinking like, oh, Fern should be the cat. Like, it would be awesome to get to the end of this show and Fern flies away with SM33.
That's funny.
And she becomes a pirate. I would love that.
I mean, she's already doing it. Wow, this is classic Krypton to Alderaan. I'm getting more sold on the show as we're talking about it. Like, she already is a pirate. She convinced the robot that she was the captain. I love that too. When SM comes out and he's like, don't touch my captain. Like, this is all normal. What they're doing, their adventure is not actually abnormal. It's only abnormal to the sheltered people of At Aden. But they fit in at the Pirate Cove to a certain degree, you know, at least if they believe they do, then they do.
Yeah. And also that fight scene was just so good. Everything about it was good. The way he like extends his limbs when he's like, don't touch my captain. And then he just starts like beating on
wailing
people.
On
there's
everybody.
Like the hydraulics in his fists and stuff. So good. And I hope that they fix him up and bring him back. I love that step 2 of their plan or step 3 of their plan, whatever it was to find him and repair him. And there's dialogue left from him that we haven't heard yet from the trailer. So he's got to come back and I'm excited to see more. The great work thing is interesting because I don't think we've heard that in Star Wars before, apart from the High Republic books. The Chancellor in the High Republic books, Lena So, she has this like checklist of things that she's doing for the galaxy that she is calling her great works. That's kind of in the background, in the environment of all of these books, these things that she's doing for the galaxy that she considers great. And I don't think we've heard that in Star Wars apart from that. And now this, which I think it's cool in multiple ways. It's cool if there's a connection there. It's cool if that's what people of power in the Star Wars galaxy call the things that they do. And or it's cool that the people creating the show or writing the show are familiar with the High Republic and have pulled this like jargon from that time. So I really, really like seeing or hearing things like that in these Star Wars shows that show me that at least that the people who are creating the show are at least like looking stuff up, if not reading the stuff. So that's just a cool little maybe Easter eggy type thing that I thought was just really neat.
Yeah, that's a cool little wink and a nod there. So it's like the 7 wonders of the world or something of that nature?
Kind of. Yeah, kind of. She builds a giant space station that's supposed to like unite people. She's extending the range of communication out into the more remote parts of the galaxy. I don't really know what all of them are, but there's like things that she believes she's doing for the betterment of the galaxy. Her legacy is her great works. For the first episode, we're hearing this stuff about At-Aden and the barrier and all these little nuggets of things that I know you want to curtail your expectations. My mind was swimming with all of this speculation, which might just be a little fun thing to do without raising our expectations, but maybe being more like, wouldn't this be neat if this were the way it went? For example, like At-Aden is being hidden, but these pirates think that it's this treasure planet. Like, what treasure could be there? Is it literal, like, treasure? Is it credits?
Well, and then why was SM's ship there? They made it there, and it was buried. Like, that's another mystery on top of mystery.
Right. So it's very Treasure Island. It's very Treasure Planet. There's a pirate who buries his treasure somewhere and then goes off to convince people that he died or whatever. And there's a big secret treasure out there somewhere. Maybe there was a pirate. SM-33's captain is the one who put that treasure there. And maybe that captain is still there and creates the barrier so no other pirate can find it. And maybe that pirate is someone like Hondo Ohnaka. Who knows?
Wild speculation.
Might make his live action debut.
Okay, great, Joey. This is the perfect wrap to the episode because I was going to ask you, who do you think the episode 5 cameo is going to be?
Oh, yeah. Well, so they keep mentioning the supervisor in the first episode,
right.
and at the beginning of the second episode, like the droids who are searching the woods are like they keep mentioning the supervisor. It makes me think that there's something there, that the supervisor is the person in charge of At-Aden, I guess somehow keeping it a secret with this barrier. Who, why, what? That kind of thing. So it could be fun for it to be someone like Hondo Ohnaka. It would be fun for it to be someone like Kira. I don't know where she is in the timeline, but I don't know. It would be fun to see someone we know. It would also be fun to see a new character. I don't have any expectations. I'm really enjoying the show. I am on the ride. If I don't see these things, I won't be disappointed. But if I do see these things, I'll be the Leo meme pointing at the TV.
Yeah, I agree. Looking forward to next week, mysteries or no mysteries. All right, listeners, let's keep this conversation going. Let us know what your wild theories are. Is it going to be Supervisor Hondo Ohnaka or what? We'd love to hear from you down in the comments below. Let us know what you thought about the show. Let us know what you thought about the podcast. And make sure to subscribe and tune in for more nerdy pop culture, but mostly Star Wars. Thanks for listening to the show today. I've been Royce.
I've been, you guessed it, Neil.
And we've been Krypton to Alderaan.
Secret treasure planet. We didn't talk about the music at all.